Oh, there we go. Test. All right.
Hello, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the March Western New York Genealogical Society meeting. I'm Rhonda Koenig. I'm the president of the Western New York Genealogical Society. I wanted to let you know, and I wanted to welcome our online viewers. Just so you know, this meeting is is a live feed online. So anything you ask other people who are watching online are going to be able to see. So welcome, everyone. I wanted to just make a couple of announcements before we get started. The first is it's renewal time again. So any of you members who need to renew, renewals are due on May 1st. And of course, you can mail in your payments, but you can also give them to Jennifer Lieber-Rains right here, collecting checks. Okay, and the next thing that I wanted to tell you about is the Western New York Genealogical Society is partnering with the Fulton Historical Society to offer a discounted trip to the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's one of the largest genealogy libraries in the United States. They have a great U.S. and some foreign content collections, and they have staff specialists who are great to assist you with your genealogy research. That trip happens April 27th through April 30th. We'll be taking a bus. We would start out in Hamburg, where you would pick up the bus, and then we'll drive down to Dunkirk. The Fulton Historical Society is in Jamestown, New York, and we'll pick up the Chautauqua County folks, and then we would travel on to Indiana. It's about a 6-hour drive. We're taking a bus through Niagara Scenic Tours. It's very comfortable. There's Wi-Fi. There's a restroom on the bus. We'll be making some stops on the way. And so we would get there that day. We would leave early in the morning, and we would be there around noon or so for you to already start doing research on that day. And then we would leave at noon on the 30th to come back. So you'll have 2 full days of research and 2 half days of research if you're interested in going with us. And there are some handouts out in the lobby about that trip if you're interested. And the last thing, I just wanted to let you know we're looking for volunteers, especially for the journal. If you're interested in writing any articles for the journal or transcribing records for the journal, as well as transcribing records that would go on our website, let me or Jennifer know, and we can talk with you about those possibilities. And next, I'll introduce Jennifer Lieber-Rains. She's our programming chair, who's going to tell you about some of our upcoming programs and introduce our speakers for today.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm the person that sends you all those emails, so I have the face behind the name. And thank you very much for coming out today. To everyone online, I'm glad you could join us. I just wanted to brief people on programs that are coming up. Next month we have an exciting program. We had a lot of requests from members to do a program on cemeteries. So we are actually having the chief investigator from New York State Division of Cemeteries, and she'll be talking about some of the rights, responsibilities that relate to cemeteries. So she covers 15 counties within New York State. So very insightful program. Additionally, in the second part of the program, Rhonda will be presenting updates to Heritage Quest, a service, a database with all sorts of historical, genealogical records that is available through multiple libraries. And then an interesting thing that we're also going to add is the Grosvenor Room will be doing tours so that you can better get yourself familiar with the resources available at the library. And additionally, we're going to have, within the counties that we cover, local genealogical societies will have tables as well. So you'll get to know some of our friends at other societies. So that's the date on that is April 18th. And it's here at the library, but it'll be upstairs in the Central Library meeting room. In May, we have another great program. People ask for more help with understanding how to utilize land records and deeds. So we have, he's a legal expert witness, but he's also a genealogist, James Lawson. We'll be talking about utilizing deeds and land records, and that is on May 16th, 2015. And just our schedule for those who may be new to Wings or considering membership. Our meetings are always the third Saturday of the month for the months of March, April, May, and then we return September, October, and November. The only variance that may occur is if there's a major holiday or major genealogical event, so just be aware of that. And then I'm also happy to report the full schedule is set and available online for the whole year. And we're happy to report that for our September meeting, we'll be having next national expert, Lisa Also, will be coming and giving presentations. So we're very excited about that. Yeah, thumbs up from the audience. So without further ado, I encourage you, come, bring a friend. We're always happy to have here. We're very lucky today to have our very wonderful, active chapter members from the Ontario Genealogical Society, Niagara Peninsula branch. There are cemeteries, digitizing records, indexing records, funeral home records. The question more often is, what are they not doing? So we're very lucky to have them here. They're very technologically savvy, and thanks to their generosity today, that this is actually being live streamed. So thank you again to all of them. I'm going to introduce them. The first person, the man in the hat, he's very well known for his hat, is Steve Fulton. He is actually the chairman of the branch, Steve. And additionally, we have Joe Wilson, the man in the green shirt. And we have Brian Amesbury, the man in the purple shirt. Tom Brooks as well. There we go. Sorry, I was looking for you. So I just want to welcome all of them. If you have questions, yeah, please. And additionally, they will be selling the book that was on display about Ontario genealogy for $25. You can get it here and walk away with the informative copy. So without further ado.
Yep. Great. We're good? All right. Wow. Good morning. I just want to say good morning to those that are online. We're good there. All right. Again, wow, that's really loud. We're good. All right. We're just going to reset here a little bit because I'm getting something back. Okay. Well, we'll try that. Well, again, good morning. My name is Chair of the Niagara Peninsula branch of the Ontario Genealogical Society. You don't want to say that too many times fast. You get tongue-tied. This is great. This is a great opportunity. Jennifer and I have been talking for quite some time, and we reside on two borders. One border, two groups, and we have a unique ability to have our ancestors cross back and forth, and we have a lot of common ground. Just very quickly, I just wanted to just share with you, some of you folks may be kind of wondering what all this here is for. And I'll just give you a little bit of background to the story, but when we were setting this up and we were talking about having this conversation, a lady better be online, because she called me out on Facebook and said, well, if Steve's going to be there, why can't you stream the meeting too? So we answered the challenge and we got it done. So what we're doing today is we're streaming for your group for the first time. We wanted to kind of showcase the technology a little bit. It's a little daunting, but it actually can just be done with a laptop and a webcam. A lot of genealogy organizations are doing this now to serve their members who don't live in the geographical area. So it's something we're doing in Ontario. The Niagara branch has taken the lead in it, and we're heavily promoting it, and we're enjoying that opportunity. So after the meeting, if you got a few questions about that, by all means you can do so. But all we do again is ask that if you do have a question, I will do my best to repeat it, or if you come to a microphone, because the folks online want to hear your question too. There's nothing worse than getting an answer and not knowing what the question was. So let's get started. Let's get started about some genealogy in Canada. Joe does a great job. We'll just get him over to the PowerPoint and we'll get started. But what I wanted to share right off the hop is that when it comes to Canadian genealogy, we need to have a better understanding. I gotta be careful looking at with these, of the development of Canada before you can start looking. The book that I'm quoting from is Genealogy in Ontario, from Brenda Dougal-Merriman. It's Searching the Records in Ontario. And it says here, planning a visit to the ancestral location is a natural outcome in your research as you discover where the family lived. And there's no question that soaking up the local environs and viewing the historical buildings, farms, places of worship, schools, and cemeteries can be a unique experience. However, do not expect to find original births, marriage, deaths, census, wills, land, or military records in the nearby village or town, or even in a county seat. Village or town administrators rarely have records of a genealogical nature. While many records were created at such a grassroots level, they were mandated by a higher level of government that collected and preserved them. So, remember that when you're starting that, okay? Going to City Hall and asking for birth, deaths, and marriages are not going to get you anywhere. They're probably just going to look at you like you got two heads. They won't know what answer to give. So now, let's kind of, and I just want to try to let you understand what we're doing here today. We're starting to be very basic. We talked about a basic how-to, because what we're talking today could actually be broken down into 12 different talks. I was on my computer till 20 after 7 this morning thinking, am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? And I'm like, yes, you're missing a ton of stuff, but there's no way I can cover everything. What our goal here today is just to point you in the right direction. Okay, and have you walk away with a better, maybe a better understanding, but a better place to look. And then one of the things that I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to give you my email address. And as long as my computer stays online, for those online or at home, it'll go online when I get home. If you email my email address, it will actually do an auto-respond back to you. And there's a whole folder full of documents that I put there for you to expand on what we've talked about today. Okay, it's all through Dropbox. It'll be easy. You don't need an account. You just click on it and you'll be able to read to your heart's content. Okay? So, our objective, can you just click on the screen for me, Joe? Okay. We're just going to do a beginner's guide. We're going to talk about vital records and key dates, land records, census, UEL, or United Empire Loyalists, British home children, immigration records, genealogy resources, and the OGS and its branches and SIGs. There's a few other slides in there, but at 20 after 7 this morning, I wasn't going to change the main slide. I was just going to keep going because I was late already. So, first of all, I wanted just to talk. Canada has a lot of names. There's Upper Canada, there's Lower Canada, there's Canada West, there's Canada East, there's the province of Canada, there's Canada, and there's a slew of other names that it can be referred to. Just so you know, I forgot to mention this PowerPoint will be in that folder as well for you. Okay? I'm not worried. I give it away. I don't care. As long as you folks walk away with a better understanding of Canadian research, that's my job. So there's key dates. Now, Upper Canada is now Southern Ontario. Lower Canada is Quebec. Okay. Canada East and Canada West were used just for a short period of time between 1841 and Confederation, which is 1867. So when you're doing your research, you need to look for that Upper Canada, Lower Canada, Canada East, Canada West, and have a better understanding of that. Okay? Now, the key date is Confederation for Canada, July 1st, 1867. And I gotta remember to stand here. I'm wandering off. This is where 4 provinces came together to form Canada. Not everything was brought in at one time. The whole country wasn't brought in at the same time. Because out west, there was nothing out west. A lot of trees and rock and water. So you have your Upper Canada, your Lower Canada, you have Nova Scotia, and you have New Brunswick as your first 4 provinces. In 1873, you see many more: British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Northwest Territories, and again, still British-controlled areas. Now, as you can see, Manitoba is that little square right there. Okay? There's Rupert's Land, there's the Hudson Bay Company. This is British Columbia here. This is all still a very vast open area. Okay? So, moving on, 1949, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, Northwest Territories, and the Yukon Territory. Newfoundland actually didn't become a province until 1949. And it's kind of unique to see because I still run into people time to time, and they'll talk about Newfoundland currency and remembering when Newfoundland was not part of Canada. So it's very unique to kind of see that. Newfoundland during that time was just Newfoundland. In 2001, if I remember correctly, it was renamed Newfoundland and Labrador. And that is Labrador and Newfoundland. So the latest one, and this is where we currently sit if they don't slice us up anymore. We have the 3 territories to the top and the provinces, and they didn't mark PEI, but PEI is in there. Great Little Island. So that's where we stand at this point. So understanding the maps is very important when you're concerned to your research. Okay, we haven't even got into Niagara yet, and that'll probably blow your mind. But we had the conversation when we were coming down here today, and that is what we want to stress the most. You can waste tons of time researching if you don't know your geographical areas properly. So, here's one that I'll throw you. In 1836, during the whole process of Upper Canada, Lower Canada, Canada East, Canada West, Province of Canada, Canada, we have districts. So we have the Niagara District, the Gore District, the Home District, Newcastle, Midland, London, Western. So during this time period, you may also have to deal with the districts and knowing where the districts are and where your folks arrived as well. Okay. There is a website, McGill University, that have taken all the 1876 atlases and scanned them and put them on their website. And the great thing is, Joe's had some experience doing it. He's actually taken those old maps and overlaid them on top of Google Maps today, and you get a great understanding of the two maps and where things are respectively. Okay, so you need to have an understanding of that as well. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Now, just to back up just for a second, just a little tidbit of information. 75% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the U.S. border. Okay. Because I don't know if any of you have decided to take a trip this winter up north. It's cold. Okay? It's cold. You folks have deserts, we have tundras. Okay? They were saying in the Yukon Territory, and I don't remember the date, I caught it last night. It was the coldest recorded temperature of minus 81 without the wind chill. There was probably a few Canadians out there playing street hockey or something, but that's the only way they would have known. So, in that, in concern to your research, remember your ancestors, our ancestors, pretty smart people, and they probably didn't wander too far off into the north either. So let's get into Lincoln and Welland, or where we call home. Lincoln and Welland counties, they're not the same names as they are today. I currently, and Joe and Tom, reside in the township of Grantham. We all three live in St. Catharines, but at that time, it was the township of Grantham. Niagara on the Lake was Niagara. And the reason why I made sure this PowerPoint was available for you online, because there's quite a bit of names, and you'll find this on our website. We're really trying to develop the wiki on our website. But all these different areas, so you got Grimsby and Clinton and Louth and Pelham and Wainfleet, Birdie. Birdie is Fort Erie, if you're not aware, but Birdie is also Birdie Bay, Buffalo Heights, Crystal Beach, Fort Erie, Oakville Forest, Ridgemount, Schneider, Stevensville, and Thunder Bay. Okay? We just don't give it one name. We want to give it a lot of names. Okay? Grantham Township, where we reside, and these are, again, on the PowerPoint. I'm not going to read them all. But it's Homer, Meriton, Port Dalhousie, Reynoldsville, St. Catharines, and there is one other one missing. Shipman's Corners, I do believe. We need to get that on. So, there's a ton of names when you're referring to Lincoln and Welland. And it is the two counties as well. Great. So again, you'll find the list on the PowerPoint that we made available to help people. There are others. There's Old Germany. You'll find that down in Willoughby, which is the south end of Niagara Falls. It wasn't there for very long, but there are references to it in cemeteries and stuff like that. So when you are hunting for your ancestors, remember it could be named something else. Okay. So again, it is available for you. Again, this is where we sit now. St. Catharines, and Thorold, and Welland, Port Colborne, Wing. In 1970, we were formed under the provincial government as the region of Niagara. So that's when the two counties disappeared, and things started to do all the amalgamating. So again, that's available. The main areas is St. Catharines and Welland, major cities, and then West Lincoln and Wainfleet is all country. Okay, let's start talking some key dates. Again, 1867, Confederation. So the government started laying the law down and said, okay, you got to start filing documentation for births, deaths, and marriages. Did they do it right off the hop, day 1, July 2nd? Not a chance. They resisted, and there are spotty records, but they started to become more current. Before that time, we always try to tell people, go after the churches. Churches were the lay of the land, the law of the land prior to Confederation. There are records from Upper Canada, Lower Canada, and stuff like that, but it does get sporadic at that point. Our vital stats are 1869 to 1917. Okay, the 1917 year is actually being microfilmed as we speak. They don't release for 100 years. And the rumor is they're going to bounce it to 115, which would be devastating. But when I can look up the birth notice of a 100-year-old person who is still living, the government has some privacy with them. And second to none, please note, Canada's privacy laws, are ridiculous. They're really tough. As a person doing genealogy, you don't fit into the law. But as a branch, if you were to pay us $5 to look up for something, yeah, that's where the rules start to change, and how we can use that information and how we document it. Okay, so you have to be very careful. We received an email from someone and said, well, I'm looking for my father, and he's still alive, and he's in a nursing home. Can you help? No. Absolutely not. We are not crossing that path. I will find a dead person for you. Not a problem. Live person, it is such a legal issue. You have to be so careful. With that, you can get into a ton of trouble. So, births are 1917. Marriage is 1801 to 1933. 1801, you're looking at the churches. Okay? The Catholic Church has some really decent records. But 1933. And then deaths. Oh. Can you click back on the screen? Yeah, okay. Deaths is 1869 to 1943 for death records. That doesn't mean that's what the Library and Archives, Statistics Canada dictates. These are the times. But that doesn't mean there's not other avenues. Because births, we always got newspapers, which is public information. And a lot of the libraries now have name indexes on them, so you can search them in databases. Marriages, same thing, and deaths. One of the greatest resources that we can find is funeral homes, and we're trying to get them to come on board. They don't really fit into the whole privacy issue. We have one that we've indexed, the Morrison Son Funeral Home. It's the oldest funeral home in Canada, and we've indexed all their records from 1828 to 1965. Yeah, it's insane how many records. I was able, just with the 2 new years that we got, I was able to find my grandfather's, my great-grandfather's, I'm sorry. So, it's a great resource, and I was able to solve a family issue. Yes, ma'am. Yep, it's the Morrison Son Funeral Home, and it's from Niagara Falls. So, you're welcome. So, I forgot to mention this. If you got questions, just ask them as we go through. It's easier after that. But yeah, it's a great resource. I was able to actually figure out why a 6-month-old baby in my family was moved to another cemetery because her brother died in the Hydro Canal in Niagara Falls, and their father was the city foreman at the time. So things got worked out. Ontario overseas deaths 1939 to 1947, documenting Ontarians who died overseas. And after these dates, the Office of the Registrar General. You have to file with them, and you have to give blood samples and eye scans and everything else to get the information. I'm just kidding. It's about privacy, plain and simple. If you cannot document your connection to that person and be the oldest kin, you're more likely not going to get the records. Okay. And again, marriages from 1801 to 1869, these registrations are recorded in the district marriage registrars, and I have that information there. I don't remember what the other information is, but there's lots of ways to get the information. Sometimes you kind of have to circumvent to get around it legally. Okay? The other information I just want to bring up, because I didn't touch base on this, but adoption. Adoption records are next to impossible to work through. You basically, I think the standard is now, if I put a child up for adoption, for example, 25 years pass and she's now 18 and I'm my age, which I will mention, I have to go on a list. And that's where I sit. And when she's interested, she goes on the list. And once the 2 people are on the list, the government will connect you. So if she never comes on that list, adoption records are very, very secure. They're very, very private, and they do not release that information at all. There are other means to get information. I have to get an accident record from my grandfather, who was killed in Hamilton. The Hamilton Police Department, this is an example, won't release the information to me. Because he died of an unnatural death, they keep the record forever. But if he died naturally, they throw it out after 40 years. I have to file a Freedom of Information, what we call a Freedom of Information, pay the $5 and they'll send the information to you. So sometimes you can use that method to get the information as well. So, okay, other key research sites, Library and Archives Canada, AO, or the Archives of Ontario. I threw on Family Search because they've got quite a few things new with Canada. The Ontario Genealogical Society and its branches and SIGs, and Canadian headstones and local libraries and museums. Again, I want to reference back to what Brenda said in her book. Okay, these institutions, these organizations have this information, were collected at the grassroots level, and then they were passed up. Sometimes they weren't passed up. I was explaining to Joe as we were coming down here this morning, we're looking for the coroner reports because we're involved in the project at the Welland Canal Memorial. There's 133 men who died building the 3rd canal, and they want to build a memorial, which is a great honor to them. Some of these folks come from the U.S. One in particular, he came from the U.S., got rejected at the border, and then was killed working at the canal. So he just walked across and got across. There's no data for him. There's no death certificate. We've got a record of his brother coming to get him, but no record going back. Nothing. So we're after these corner reports. The problem is in Welling County, if you remember the map, Welling County, every 2 years, their court system kind of clean house and they dump the records. There's no corner reports. I know. I had to take the same moment too, and I had to take a deep breath. And they dumped them. Lincoln has some corner records, but between 1917 and 1937, they followed Welling. Well, if they're dumping it, we'll dump them too. And then after 20 years, they stopped. So information is going to be broken up. It's not going to be available. And again, you folks understand, what, 2% of all genealogy research is on the internet. We're still digging stuff out. We know stuff is sitting in the basement on shelves. And I just received a book for 3 churches in Thorold from 1841 to 1846. Births, deaths, marriages, confirmations. Like, I almost cried when they put the book in my hand. So we're busily getting that scanned to do that. So Library and Archives Canada is the Canadian organization, the archives. You will find a lot of stuff in there, land grants, original land grants, immigration records, and all that kind of stuff. Massive database. You can search for it there. Archives of Ontario, again, it focuses on Ontario. It cares about the marriage. It has all sorts of records as well, but not all of it is online. And if there are government websites, let's be honest here, they're a great resource. You just need to sometimes have a PhD to be able to figure it out. Okay. Family Search, you know about that. I didn't put the other one on because everybody knows the other one. We'll talk more about the OGS and its branches. CanadianHeadstones.com. I know you guys have, there's a billion graves, not you guys, but there's a billion graves out there. There's Find a Grave, there's all these ones. But the Canadian Headstones is direct partnership with Niagara, and what our goal is to get every headstone in Niagara on the website. When we took it over, it had approximately 10,000 headstones on it, and now it's sitting somewhere around 25,000. So it's a great resource, a great search engine, and it really ties people in. So it's another thing. Local libraries and museums, again, not everything is one location. We do not have an archives of Niagara. You have to go to the libraries. It's 12 libraries, 12 municipalities, museums. There's little historical groups. There's big historical groups. You really need to get a good handle of where you're researching. So we're going to deal with land records right off the hop because that is a complex thing, and I'm still working on that for my own understanding. Land records in Niagara almost got thrown out. Almost. And if it wasn't for some wonderful ladies who started a project called Apple Rod, they moved in and secured these records from the government. The government basically said, we're tossing them. We're tossing them all. So these ladies went in, they divided up the records, and here's a list that you can see. They are all in different locations. They are not housed in one location, and access to them is limited. You must set an appointment and talk to them. They are working on a database. I know they've been typing this information in. I don't know when the launch date is for that database. But they are Niagara North. This is still another old school way we refer to at home. There's Niagara North and there's Niagara South. So Lincoln, Welland. It's still out there. With the land registry, that's how they talk. So you have the Niagara Historical Society, West Lincoln, Niagara Falls, and down it goes. I do know that the Welland Historical Museum is about to relaunch and reopen their doors. The land records have been under lock and key for over a year. You couldn't get access to them at all. So it is solely up to that organization about access and stuff, and they have the information about Grand patents right from when the government owned the land and all the way down. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about Grand patents. Okay, any questions so far? Or I totally lost you. I hope not. As I said, it's a wide brush today. We're just going to talk about it. If you've got questions, please ask, because I don't want to lose you, but I want to try to make sure we have a good understanding. So, okay, census records. Every genealogist I know loves a good census record and hates when they can't find it, because it's that key, it's that thing. So census records, there are census records that actually go back, very limited, when the French came over and started settling Quebec and stuff like that. I did see a few census records back to the 1600s, okay? But they're very, very limited. And you will find them on the Library and Archives of Canada. I started at the 1828 census records. 1828 census and the 1842 census head of household is the only thing listed. So Joe Smith, and there was 12 people living with him. That's it. Very few counties have the 1828 census. Niagara is one of them. They found it in an attic of an old courthouse that had been converted. They just happened to be sitting there, and they managed to find it. 1842, 1851, comprising of Canada East and Canada West, and an attempt to record every member of the household by name. Okay, so this is where we start getting this naming thing going on. Okay. 1861 is the last census for the province of Canada. Okay. 1871 is the first census of the new country, Canada, and on it goes. And there's more information, 81 and then 91, and then 01 talks about religion and birthplace and citizenship. 1911 actually stopped talking about what someone's infirmity was, like if they were deaf or dumb. And on. Anything after 1921 is in the Custody Statistics Canada. Again, if you want it, let me know how you get it, because I'd be curious. Because they are very firm about these dates. You're going to have to jump through all sorts of hoops to get any information. The census records are available 92 years after the date. The problem is in the last couple census, the last census was it from, you remember? Where they gave you the choice if you wanted your information released 100 years later. They gave people the choice. Okay, again, I know you're shocked. I was floored. I actually checked it off. Yes, I want it released, and are you stinking kidding me? Really? Like, I won't be around, but still, that's really mean. It's a very un-Canadian kind of thing to do. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that check that box off. So those folks, 92 years from now, you're just gonna be gone. And then now they're fighting about the long census, bringing it back, because the census got to a point where it was like 4 or 5 questions. It was kind of really ridiculous. So now they're going out. I did, when was I doing that? I actually was an enumerator for one of the census. I don't remember the year. I don't want to date myself either. It was quite involved. As an enumerator, like I had an opportunity to actually go door to door and asking. It was quite an experience. It was quite an experience, and I went through the training, and wow, it was really strict. Like they were very strict about the information, but it gave a good perspective of collecting that. Now, the one census I want to talk about, the 1901, and it's been get the most of it is Monk. There's 3 electoral districts in the 1901 census that if you don't understand them, again, we're going into names again. We just love changing names. Monk was an electoral district, an electoral county that didn't exist. Only on paper did it exist. And it encompassed Caister, Gainsborough, Haldimand, Cambro, Dunville, Moulton, and Pelham, and Wainfleet. So if you're doing research during that time, and my great-grandfather, I think my I don't know. I was trying to search for him, couldn't find him, and I discovered this. Niagara is one of the 3 who has this. And I researched him under Monk, and everything started to fall into place. Okay? For some crazy notion, they decided, oh, let's just make up a county and stick everything under it. We'll get those genealogists. So, know that. I just wanted to dedicate that, that is there, and you need to know that for your research, especially in Niagara. Just off a question I should have asked at the beginning. Who's got ancestors in Canada? All right. Who thinks you got ancestors in Canada? All right. That's awesome. Welcome home. So, other census records, I just wanted to throw that out there. This is the other turnaround if you cannot find it. The Vernon directories, or the city directories, you'll find them in most of the local libraries. The coolest thing, and I'll mention them only once, is the 1935 to 1980 Canadian Voters List on Ancestry.ca. It wasn't a census, but it was the government doing a voter registration. You didn't have to put your name in, but most people complied with the government. They weren't as rebels as we are now. You know, that is so cool, that record, because you can actually trace, you can put your person in and you can follow them where they lived. It tells where they lived, who was there with them, and what their job was at the time. So it's a great resource that we've used many a times. Business directories and of course phone books and stuff. Business directory, we just got a almost a 400-page book for Lincoln and Welland counties that was published in 1878 to 1879. It lists everybody in those 2 counties, every resident. So that book is 2 years prior to the 1881 census. So those are other resources that you can look for to get that information. Again, they're sporadic. Those books are far and few between. We're going to scan it, and then I got to try to find a volunteer who will actually transcribe it and get it out onto our website. So those are different. The Vernon directories are good if you've had experience using them. I was able to track my grandfather. It's like another business directory, name, address, and what they did. But the cool thing about the book is they split it right down the middle. The front, back, one section, they listed everybody alphabetically. The next section, the other section, they listed everything by street. So you could find and then flip and see who all the neighbors were. Yes, ma'am. The Vernon directories, no. You're going to have to go to the libraries to get them. Okay? And they're pretty much available. They are available pretty much in every library for the area. Okay? I would just love to get the Vernon directories online. It would be a huge resource. Because again, you can follow. I didn't know the death date of my grandfather out of Hamilton. I followed him in the Vernon directory, And then all of a sudden he was gone. And then his wife. So immediately went to the newspaper and I had him within a half an hour. So it was a great resource. All right. UELs, or United Empire Loyalists. Anybody not heard of UEL? Everybody's heard of UEL? All right, so you have a good understanding of what they are. The Loyalists, they came from the 13 colonies when you guys were having a big fight down here. And they figured, well, forget this, we're going north, see ya, we got to go to the tundra. So the UELs, they're saying at least 35,000 Loyalist families settled in the Maritimes and 10,000 settled in Upper Canada, Lower Canada, in that information. They say 4 to 6 million Canadians living today are descendants of UEs. Okay? So, the reason why, and you may have seen, I don't know if we put it on the ad or not, but if you see me, or you see my name on Facebook or on the ad that Jennifer put up, you'll see Steve Fulton, UE. Okay? It is the only Canadian decree that the Canadian government doesn't really recognize because it wasn't passed by the Crown at the time. It says the Loyalists who have adhered to the unity of the Empire and joined the royal standard before the Treaty of Separation in the year of 1783, and all their children and their descendants by either sex, are to be distinguished by the following capitals affixed to their names, UE, alluding to the great principle, the unity of the Empire. Okay? I get nothing for it. They didn't give me any land or large volumes of cash. I was kind of hoping. But to me, it's a matter of principle. My ancestors came and settled in Canada, and they adhered to the Crown, and it's important to me. A lot of these folks, if you were a UE, you were given land grants, you were given free land, 200 acres, if I remember correctly, and that's how they developed the land. And compensation, yes. Yeah. So, there was, you will hear a reference, there are early Loyalists, and then there are late Loyalists. The early Loyalists are people who literally were fleeing for their lives, or didn't want to get involved. And then there was late Loyalists, and some of them, not all of them, but late Loyalists who were like, free land. All right, we're out of here. Let's go north. We can handle a few snowflakes. So this is very important. It is the only thing you will find in the world. There is no other. It's a Canadian thing. And if you are a descendant or you have an ancestor who may have gone through that process, you can bear those names as well. There was some discussion about the whole UE thing when CNN groups did their little talk. We won't get into that today, but the CNN host actually came onto our Facebook page and kind of back-talked what he said. He said a few things about us. It wasn't really good. So, what you need to do, if you are looking to do that, you need to document proof back to that UE ancestor. So, birth, for me, it was son to mother, mother to grandfather, grandfather to great-grandfather, marriage, birth, whatever government document that you could do, and eventually you get to a point where you go back to the Crown patents, the Crown land records, and it will say on there, this person who is a United Empire Loyalist is dedicated da-da-da-da-da in this amount, and you present that, and you can get a certificate from the UELAC. Okay? So it's a great part of your research. It's again, if I can just say, it's putting the meat back on the bones of your ancestors, and really starting to understand what that dash means between the birth and the death date. Okay. No. There we go. Yeah, it's a little slow. Sorry. Okay, I did notice a few people were talking when I said British home children, and I got this kind of puzzled look. And I'm not sure if people understand what British home children are, but we'll try to explain that to you. Again, between 1869 and late 1930s, over 100,000 children were shipped to Canada and Australia. This young man here, age 7, is Frederick Charles Biggs. That is my wife's grandfather. His father died of consumption, which is tuberculosis, right? They had 10 children. The mother was not of well health. The church stepped in, took him, a brother, and another brother, and shipped 3 girls to Australia. He was the youngest out of them, 7, stuck on a boat through an organization called Bernardo's, and was shipped overseas to live with Canadian families as farm labor. I'll be very honest with you. There are recorded deaths. Children were abused, beaten. The farm animals were treated better in some cases. Most British home BHC, we'll go with it because we all love acronyms. BHCs didn't talk about it. This young, my wife's grandfather never talked about it, and this is what got me into genealogy. She wanted to know about her grandfather. She told me to get a hobby. Now I think I have a sickness, but that's all right because I don't really go to AA. AA's for quitters. So these kids were shipped over like cattle to Canada. Some did come to the States, but it wasn't as prominent. It was more Canada because it was part of the Commonwealth at that time. They were called street urchins on the streets in Britain, and there's actually cartoons depicting of just shoveling them up into wagons and getting rid of them. I was able to get documentation, this photo, I've got other photos, I've got medical reports, I've got all sorts of documentation to him coming over and follow-up visits. He was lucky. He did not have a bad life, but was still scarred by leaving his family. But it wasn't roses for all of them. And, you know, what do? We have nothing. That was that year ago, but we want to honor them. So there is, they say, what is it, 30? There's at least 30% of Canadians are British home child descendants. So, yeah. There's lots of resources online. My wife is actually the chair of the British Home Child SIG out of the OGS, and there's other organizations as well that you can get information as well. So, right from British home children to immigration. Immigration records, again, federal government record, are going to be tightly controlled. They release some, there's ship, there's land, how we come in. One example that I want to share is my grandmother visited Canada 3 times by boat, back and forth with her father. I have it all documented. I'm working on what he was actually doing back and forth, but he was going back and forth. They finally immigrated into Canada through New York and up through Fort Erie. The boat rides, they kept going back and forth to Montreal. Okay? But when they finally immigrated, they come through New York and into Fort Erie. So there's that you have to kind of watch. They have a tendency of, well, let's go this way this time. So the documents are there. Any records prior to 1865, you're probably not going to find them. There's lots of documents and records online. LAC, Library and Archives Canada, has a lot of them as well. They have boat records. They have border crossing records. But remember, when it comes to immigration, we may have the largest undefended border between two countries now, but they didn't back then. Some people just decided to go for a walk and take the cow with them. And the next thing you know, they're in Canada or they're in the U.S. Okay? So there may not be any paperwork in concerns of that. Like I said earlier, about the Welland Canal, where that gentleman got recused at the border, and the next thing you know, he's killed on the Welland Canal, and there's no documentation. It's good to know when they arrived. Again, you can use the city directories and death records to kind of supplement those records. The biggest thing that I try to teach people about research is stop researching for birth, marriage, deaths, cemetery. Stop searching in a linear fashion. Just take a step out of the box and maybe go around. Go to the wife, go to the child, and sometimes you can get it that way. Yes, ma'am. They're back into the 1800s. I don't know when they actually started, but they are back to the 1800s. How many are available for what city? That is yet to be determined. So there's lots of different. Immigration is a great resource, but you most of the time are going to have to supplement it with something else to kind of figure out where you are with them. Okay. I promised you this email. You need to write this down if you want the stuff. If you don't want the stuff, you don't have to write it down. Put in the subject line, Canada. So for those online, the email is niagarachair@ogs.on.ca, and put Canada in the subject line. It doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not, I can set it up for that. It will send you a Dropbox link, and it will, then you can access a lot of the documents. Births, deaths, and marriages, I put in a pathfinder, so kind of a flow chart. You ask your questions and it'll get you where you need to go. It's a great resource. We actually may put it on our website for that. Again, the PowerPoint will be there and everything will be there for you. So, again, we're part of the Ontario Genealogical Society. There's 33, there's 30 branches and 4 special interest groups, which are the Irish Palatine, the British Home Show, and the Scottish, what we call special interest groups. Pretty much every county in Ontario has a branch, except for the Huntsville area. And we do have a couple branches down in Norfolk and Fulton who have gone dormant just due to lack of volunteers. The beauty, and I try to make sure people are aware, doing genealogy, I did genealogy for 10 years on my own, and figured I had it down pat. Yeah, right. I joined the OGS, like you guys are members of this organization. I try to stress to people, this is where you're going to find it. This is where you're going to find the information. You got to get down to the grassroots level. There we go. Our website, again, all the branches have their own website. On our website, we have searchable indexes from the funeral home to surname to miscellaneous documents. We're continuing to try to put it online because we're very lucky. Our executive of our branch, we have an average age of 53, which is fantastic. The problem is the average age of 53 pretty much everybody on the executive is still working. So I can't do my research in the local libraries during the day because I'm working. My boss is tolerant, but I don't know if he'd allow me to dedicate hours in the library. So my research is done late on a Saturday night or early on a Sunday morning. So we're trying to get more resources out online so that people have a fighting chance to do so. So, again, we're boots on the ground. And I'll tell you a little story about, and I said earlier about the adoption records, that they're like concrete, you can't get through them. But I had a gentleman from my church come to me, not him specifically, but his daughter, and he had found out terribly that he was adopted. It's a terrible situation. They had a wee bit of documentation, and that was his death wish. He needed to know where he came from. So, of course, we dropped everything and we started to help. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I didn't look in the books, I didn't get to the website, I didn't do anything. I got boots on the ground, found the area, and started calling. The beauty is with the OGS, as the chair of the organization and knowing a few people within the organization, we started making phone calls. Within 3 months, he was actually meeting with live relatives. We managed to connect. And with you folks, and I just want to make sure, get boots on the ground. We did a talk at the Pelham Library, and a lady had asked us, well, where can I find out information about Czechoslovakia? And I'm like, okay, I'm no expert, but how about you just email somebody in Czechoslovakia and get boots on the ground? And she's like, oh, okay. And off she went. And she was happy. And I think she got her answer. But remember, boots on the ground with your organization, our organization. The books are great. The onlines are great. But getting the people who understand, well, it's a third shoe tree south of Pelham Road. I mean, you're not going to find that in a book or online anywhere. We stream our meetings, as you can see here. All of the branches who do it stream it for free. That's one thing that we tried to publish, and because you would invite someone free into your meeting here, why not do it the same for there? It's not their fault they live in California, you know what I mean, due to family things. So we want to reach out to them and help them connect, because this is what it's all about. It's just connecting, connecting through our paths. Multiple online databases and resources. Tony, which we call the Ontario Name Index. I think there's 3.5 million names in there now. You can search it on the OGS site, and it's to different counties, different regions. Again, the funeral home, what I told you about, the surname, that's on our website as well. This one here, the Lincoln-Welland County family, is a great resource, and Joe and I had the opportunity to set it up. And it's basically a GEDCOM database. And what we've done is we've got over 109,000 names in this database, and it's continuing to grow. And people are just sending their GEDCOM files to us, and we're uploading it to it, and we're making it free for people to search and connect. Because again, that's what it's about. Let's connect. Because why do 10 years worth of research if someone down the street's got the whole thing done? Okay? We just had a gentleman out of Fort Erie who called me. He's coming to end of life for him. And he wants a place to put his research. He literally said, I need to find a net for this stuff. My kids don't care. They don't want to be involved. I've got 33,000 names in my family tree program. I almost fell off the chair. Yes, please. I'll drive down right now. I'll walk if I have to get to your home. So we're in the process of getting that information for him, and then we're making it available for the public. And then if his family if another generation ever comes along, we'll release the information to them. Bueno? So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but library collections, cemetery tours, social media sites, and websites. The cemetery tours, I always enjoy. I can't wait till all the snow's gone and we can get back out in the cemeteries. Jennifer's going to take me to the cemetery today, and I brought my dowsing rods. I'm so excited. On our website, we have a YouTube channel, and Joe's our cemetery coordinator, will go out and we'll just walk through cemeteries. And we'll do a video tour with my smartphone, and then we put it online for people who may not be able to hike a kilometer through a cornfield and they get carried away by mosquitoes larger than Joe. It's great fun, great exercise. We get to meet all sorts of people, but people aren't going to walk or they don't live in the area, so we put them online. It's a great opportunity just to explore. Again, filling in that dash of that. And then the social media sites, which should better be online. I will be checking. We have a great social media. The sites are really developed, the OGS site, social media, your guys' group. It's a breathing, living organism at this point, and people are helping each other. And people say Facebook, some people say Facebook is the demon child of the internet. That's alright. The genealogists are just taking it over. Because there's no better way to connect with people, and you can connect just very quickly, find some resources. Remember my grandfather would tell me when he was doing genealogy, yeah, I wrote a letter. When did you write that? 6 weeks ago. Wow, where'd it go? England. Oh, it'll probably be another month. Really? Are you kidding me? Now we can get instant information. And sometimes that's detrimental because then you spend your whole day on Facebook and not really what you're supposed to be doing. But it's a great way to connect with people as well. So, last thing I just want to talk about, and then I'll take any questions you may have. And I stick this in, and this is kind of not part of the whole Canadian thing, but I am so adamant that people need to stop and think about their research. In this room, put up your hand if you have a plan. What's going to happen with your research? You folks are the best, because I can't even put up my stinking hand. We got to develop a plan. How long you been doing it? How long you been doing research, man? 15 years. Anybody bigger than that? Longer than that? Give me a number. 35. As long as you can remember. So what's going to happen? I'm calling you out right here on the floor. Something happens tomorrow, heaven forbid, you get sick and you never get to that. There's all those years gone, vaporized. We have a great aunt, I believe Joe, who passed away, and the family went in and cleaned house and dumped it all in the garbage. Dumped it all because families are such grieving at that time. The only way to disconnect from it is to dump it. And now, because we're moving more and more into technology, I'm not just talking your tangibles anymore. I'm talking your non-tangibles, your electronics, your passwords. Who owns it? Who has access to it? All my research is currently residing in Dropbox. Okay? It's backed up on my laptop, it's in Dropbox, it's on another hard drive. You know, I'm sure that as long as Joe and I don't get wiped out in the same vehicle doing cemetery hunting or get shot at, he'll be there to look after my stuff and I'll be there to look after it. But I really want to call people out for your research. Okay? You need to put a plan together. I'm not sure what your guys' holdings are within your organization, but you know, I know with OGS, I know through OGS, I am donating a copy of my research to the Niagara branch. And then I'm going to donate a copy to the St. Catharines Public Library, create copies for my children. They lose them, whatever. The other two are there. It's also going to go into the Lincoln Welland counties. You need to develop a plan and what's going to happen. And what we are trying to do as an organization is if we hear of somebody and we're telling people if there's a problem, if something happens, turn to the local organization. and get help. Because, oh my goodness, imagine 35 years gone. You won't be here to see the grief, but I'd be crying. So I call you out, and this is part of the whole part of your genealogy. You've got to think about this all the time in what you're doing. So, think that's the last one. Okay, perfect. We're gonna leave. No, leave that. So, questions? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Canada used to be Quebec. People walk back and forth across that border all the time. It was crazy trying to keep track of it. But yeah, you're looking at Quebec from there, and yeah, trying to track people is difficult when they're doing the migration. I'll repeat it. Yeah, it's difficult because the question is just about tracking your ancestor from Canada to the U.S. and it's really about the enumerator. Let's be honest here. We're people, okay? And when I was doing enumeration, there was a couple days I was just not feeling that great, and I probably wasn't listening that well. You know what I mean? And people just said different things because whatever. So, and it's interpretation. If somebody's standing and they're like, well, this is Canada East or Canada West, I just put it down as this. You know what I mean? So everything in that kind of sense, you got to take it literally. Okay? Go ahead.
Just one other thing. If you actually go to the New England Genealogical Society, when you talk about Maine, Vermont, a lot of the border New England states, there's some really good finding guides that they have to talk about movement. So you might want to pursue that from an American side, how it flies.
Great. Yes, sir. Canada West would be Ontario. Right? Yeah, Ontario. I'm even confused in all the names. I'm Canadian. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you would contact them. You could Google search Office of the Registrar General, and it will bring up their address almost immediately for you. And then you just got to fill out their paperwork. So, yes, ma'am. Yep. Okay, so the question is hard to read tombstones, headstones, however you want to call them. How to read them. There are some software out there that I'm kind of playing with that will change the hue color of pictures. And so it'll change and take it from its original color and make it a red or make it a blue. But there's also another piece of software that will make them 3D. And it'll enhance the image. Okay? A lot of these headstones are being read just by simply putting them on a computer program and enhancing them. Please, 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 don't do anything to them. Don't chalk them. Don't do anything. It's not the way to do it. I've even seen the latest one on Facebook that you take tin foil and you brush it on. The problem is that's all fine and dandy. It may not do anything, but when you're in the process of pushing that on, what if you snap that stone? Okay, it's not just about damaging the face of the stone. You could damage the stone. The stone could fall on you. You know, all these kind of things. Just take the pictures, different lights, different angles, and take them home and play with it there. Okay? Yes, sir, in the back. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so the question is 2 lines. One comes through New Brunswick, and then one through St. John's, New Brunswick. Joe, can you pull me up the Lincoln, the original map on the PowerPoint? Unless we can use this one. Just go back to Lincoln, Welland County. So you said St. David's, right? Okay. 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 Use the mic just for folks.
The Toronto Public Library website has some directories of Toronto. There's one about 1835, I think. There's another one about 1843. There's one 1847-48. There's another one for 1850. And you know, if your person was in the 1842 census, you might find them in the 1846, 47 directory. And that's on the Toronto Public Library site.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. And this is the best part of doing talks like this, when we get into the Q&A like this. If people know, let's share it. And I just wanted to show, again, because of all the Canada names, and I did fall victim to it myself, is Niagara on the Lake. There's a St. So I just wanted to point that there is a St. David's there, and that's the company. Okay. Yes, just. Okay. So the question was, young boy, your grandfather, about 9 years old, came from England into a Canadian port, and then made his way to the U.S. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is Library and Archives Canada, either the immigration records or the British Home Children records. Most children at that age did not travel by themselves unless they were in that group. If he had parents with them, then that would be different. But I would say I would look in the British Home Child section in their archives, and it'll tell you what ship and the whole 9 yards, what port, the whole thing, or the immigration or the passenger lists, also on Library and Archives Canada. That's where you're going to find it. Now you're looking at Montreal, Quebec, there was St. John's, and then, yeah, St. John's as well. So you'd be probably surprised if he came over by himself, if he wasn't grouped in with other boys. So, you love genealogy, eh? It's the hunt, the thrill of the hunt. Yes, ma'am. Well, what company you're talking about? Do we know? Okay, so I'm going to give you the simplest of answers because I'm not a railroad expert unless someone else. I'll restate it, thank you. It's a question about railroad workers and finding information about them. Number one, I always say to people, go to Google. Go to Google and put in as much information as you can there and start backtracking it for the area. Now, Northumberland, I myself, because I'm not an expert in it, I try to find an information in the area that may be able to. Do you have, something more? It's about finding relatives that worked for the train. Northumberland. Niagara Peninsula, 1880s. All right. We didn't anticipate railroad questions, did we?
History, there's a section for CNN. Like there was a lot of amalgamation of railroads.
Yeah.
Until finally there were only
the
two
CN
left, CNN and CP.
Yeah,
So
CP.
it may be that a lot of the older railroads became part of CNN or CP. And there is something on Ancestry for searches for CNN people. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
all. That's all I can
Okay, so again, regular census records, Vernon directories, that kind of stuff. But honestly, because I don't have an answer for you, I would just Google it and see who contains historical records for that, for those companies. You're welcome. Yeah, ma'am, and then I'll go to you. Sure. Okay. So I'm just repeating it for those online, but the for Lexington and Addington area and corner reports. And as I said earlier, the best person to ask for that is AO, Archives of Ontario. Call them up. They're very good on. You just state your question to them, and they'll give you the answer right on the spot. What's available, what's not available in concern to. Again, look at newspapers. There is a branch in that area, and they may be able to help you as well. Joe is bringing up railway information on Library and Archives Canada. I'd unzoom that a bit, but I can't find the remote. Sir, you have a question. Yeah, in Humberstone. So Port Colborne would have been Humberstone at the time. There is a archive. Actually, Port Colborne does have their own archives right downtown that you can go to. Their library is really good. And we also have an index on our website called the Neff Young Index. And it was just a lady who collected obits for years and years and years and years. And we indexed them all, and they're searchable online. So yeah, go to Port Colborne. The archives are wonderful people there. They'll be able to give you a hand. Okay. I'm just going to bounce to the lady, and then I'll go to the gentleman. Yes, ma'am. No, not during that time. Passports were brought in. We'll just use this. It'll be easier. We've got a few questions. No, that was all brought in when Canada was later on, but it's part of the Commonwealth. Because we're part of the Commonwealth countries, those rules were a lot more lax about people coming and going with very little documentation. they would be listed on the passenger list, but they could come and go like they were neighbors in some fashion. The gentleman in the back, and then I'll get the lady here. We're just going to use the microphone because it's too hard for me to keep repeating.
You've mentioned the Archives of Ontario, and I myself have been there. It's an easy 2-hour drive. You might just say a little bit more for people who are not from there about how easy it is to get there, what they have. But also, it's a possibility that the society here might consider a day bus trip up here for people who might be interested.
It is a great place. I went for the first time a couple months ago, but you need to be prepared. You need to, yes. Yes. You need to be prepared with your questions, and take your questions with you because they will help you. They're very good. The facility is an amazing facility. It's huge, lots of room to work. They have a huge microfilm area that you can actually get the microfilm and look it up. But it's a great resource. Yes, Tom.
Archives Ontario on their website will tell you how to prepare for going. It'll because some of their records are stored offsite and they need a day's notice to get them. But their website will give you step by step on how to prepare for your visit.
Yeah. Just got this lady right here, Jennifer. And
Allow me.
we have to for the folks online.
Okay, my father was born in Mount St. Louis in 1911. I also found out later that his brother was born there, and they came back to America. But my father never would talk about it much, okay? And we have papers here of his birth there, and we would like to know if we went to St. Louis, could we find out more information? It may even be partial family. We don't know.
Yeah. So right. The best thing to do, the best recommendation I can give you, because I can't give you a straight answer, is you've got to get boots on the ground. You need to send a couple emails. You need to make a few phone calls to make sure that the library there may have a genealogy section, because there are libraries that have no genealogy whatsoever. Like we went to search my wife's grandfather, who first came to Canada as a British home child, and we found out that he was in Muskoka, the Muskoka area, which is Huntsville. So I called up to the library. What do you have available? What's in the area? Connected with them, so I was better prepared to when I walked in. Even when we did the adoption, we finally found the family in Godrich, but I had to get somebody on the ground to go, hey, wait a minute, we have a book. Oh, it's that farm. Yeah, they're still living there. I mean, that's what you need to do. Yeah, we all know people have skeletons in their closets, and some people just rather keep them. Sorry.
Early church records for St. David's, Niagara on the Lake, like around 1800 to 1820. And I was wondering who would have those, if they are even available, because I know what was going on during the time period.
Yeah, they burned a lot, but we won't get into the whole burning thing. Wasn't going to bring up that whole thing. Niagara on the Lake Library, right on Niagara Stone Road, going in. If you're heading towards Niagara on the Lake, you'll find it on the right-hand side. Go there. They have a fantastic collection of information. What's the surname you're looking for? Okay. All right. There are some information. Even take a card for me today, because my seventh great-grandfather was Christian Warner, who first settled St. David's and is a UE. So take my email because I've got the Warner family book, and some of your information may be in there that I'd be willing to share with you. No problem. Yeah, I'll let her go and then you have. Okay, so again, there is Peer, where are my guys here? Peer 9021. Collard, that one. Oh, you've seen that record before? Nice try, guys. Okay. Okay. All right. These guys are doing a whole show behind me. I don't even know what's going on. What is it, Pure 21 in Halifax? 13? I don't know. It's Pure in Halifax, Pure 21. It is it's the port where a lot of people immigrated into, and they have a massive genealogy resource there that you can access. And I know the Halifax area, they have some great genealogy organizations there as well. Yeah, just Google Pure 21. You'll get it. One day I'm going to go to Pure 21. Jennifer, can we go down to this lady here? And then we'll bounce you. This is great fun. Let's watch Jennifer. She's right there in the
I have a question on the EUs. I have a great multiple grandfather who was kidnapped by the British Navy, jumped ship in Boston, and eventually at the age of 70 went to Nova Scotia when the land all became available in Nova Scotia. And I'm really curious if maybe as a 70-year-old he was a loyalist, and that's why he went at that age. Where would those records, if he had to sign off on something, would it be in Nova Scotia?
Okay. First place you should look is UELAC, United Empire Loyalist Association of Canada. They have a list of loyalists on their website. Okay? There's also genealogy groups there in Nova Scotia as well that you can touch base with. Loyalists are pretty well documented. They're very well documented, and you'll find the resources there to do that. What the heck are they doing? I see everybody pointing, and I'm like, what's going on? There we go. So that's what I would do in that information. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, just, you know, another trick I just try to tell genealogists, I don't know if you've ever done it, but Google Alerts. Does anybody know what Google Alerts is? So you go to Google Alerts. Okay? You got to Google itself, but Google Alerts. And then what you do is you create an alert for your relative. And you put it in, and then their name and say the date range. And anytime anything populates on the internet that matches that, it'll email you. So you can get Google to do the research for you if you set up a huge amount of Google alerts. Like, how many people have actually Googled themselves? You should Google yourself like every 6 months, okay? Because technology is changing so fast. But create these Google alerts. I have Google alerts for all sorts of ancestors. And when a hit comes in, it comes right to my email. Like, when I know when there's a news article going out for the Niagara Peninsula branch, because I got an alert for it, it automatically emails me before it goes live onto the net. So use that as a resource, as a tool. You're doing genealogy in your sleep now. There was somebody here who had a question. I just want. Oh, yes, ma'am. Watch Jennifer write. Watch Jennifer walk.
Thank you.
This might be a dumb question, but is it difficult to get Canadian military records like World War I, World War II if you're a U.S. citizen?
No. World War I, the World War I records are the attestation papers are on the library and archives. Okay? That information is becoming more readily available all the time. I do know, I've seen out of the English, England blogs that they're putting a lot of their information on as well. The Commonwealth Graves site, website, is where all the Canadian soldiers were buried overseas. That's also a resource of information that you can get as well. World War II, we start to get into Canadian privacy issues because these folks died, not more than the required government laws. You may be able to find the information, but you need to prove your connection. Okay, but World War I is becoming more and more available. Absolutely, yeah. And lady right there. Great. That's good.
Some level grandfather was in the Scottish regiments, but in Kingston. Is there a way to get because he wasn't in the Canadian military, how do I get to his records? Even though I know he was in Kingston, but was part of the British military. Any suggestions?
Okay, those records are available on, you can go over and hop the farms on the internet. You can find those records, Ancestry's got them, and stuff like that. There's other resources that have them. You have to remember, during World War I, we were a baby nation. Not like you seniors. And I say that very carefully. We were a baby nation at that time. So we were still we may have been our own kind of nation during that time, but we were still under the wing of England. So in concern to support and logistics and all that kind of stuff, there was a lot of banding going on. Okay, so a lot of records were back. Okay, so when you do Canadian research, you need to make sure you've got a good dose of, you're looking in the English records as well for that information. So, okay. Yes, ma'am. During the time, no, they were just welcome home, brother. We'll take you. Yeah, there wasn't a whole huge process until we became more of a nation on our own, and now there's a whole. I was actually going to do that as an opener. We were all going to do a Canada test, an immigration test, but then I watched it and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I'd embarrass those guys because I failed the test like you would believe I failed it. It was terrible. But now they do that. But back then it was like, welcome home. And they just, they see how much cash they had in their, I think that's all they were worried about, is how much cash they had in their pocket. And come on in. We got, because there was a big push for immigration, especially for going out west. They wanted to develop the railroad. They wanted to push people west. And they were just bringing people in to do that. So, I think we're one more, and then we will.
Acquisitive group.
Yeah, it's all right.
This isn't really a question, it's just more to share some information.
Sure.
You mentioned about the libraries, and of course all of them may not have genealogy departments, but I have dealt with the Guelph Library, and they have the most wonderful website with so many beautiful pictures and so much history. And then if you just write them, I was able to obtain several obituaries that were very, very helpful, and they replied right away and inexpensive. So I couldn't say enough about how helpful they were.
You'll find that from library to library. You'll see their value in genealogy. We've got some libraries that see no value in it, and we see other libraries that have an extensive, this is the cat's meow, we need to be part of this. I know the Niagara Falls Library has an extensive digital picture archive, and they have great stuff. Local name index, St. Catherine's has got the same. There's a few other libraries, and then there's some that have nothing. So it's a very hidden miss that you need to know.
Library we might want to highlight is the Dufferin County
Yep.
Museum and Archives. Outstanding facility, incredibly helpful. They even have they've started to digitize their records, and with a membership you can access their digital records, and that's pretty amazing for a small rural county.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it was Dufferin County Archives. Yeah, always. If you're gonna go, I just suggest to call. Call, see what their hours are, because we are from the frozen tundra. In the winter, their hours may be just a day out of the week. You know, because a lot of this stuff is staffed by volunteers, and the volunteers just won't travel. So, Tom, did you have something to finish up?
We don't get the snow that these people right here
I
get.
know that. I was waiting for somebody to jump in on me, but none of these folks are brave enough to do that.
I mean, if you look at the planting zones for your garden,
See, I wasn't waiting for a Canadian
to get the
point
zone
that
that St. Catherine's is in, you've got to go as far south as Virginia. So I mean, all Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, they all get more than we get in the
I was
Niagara
waiting for one of these fine folks to point that in. I'm not going to argue with the woman. You got palm trees, that's fine with me. Might be blow up palm trees, but that's about all you got. So I just wanted to bring this. We do have copies of this Genealogy in Ontario, Searching the Roots. We were just going to offer them. They're $25. We didn't give real notice, and I apologize. We do have a device that we could take a credit card if you really wanted to, or you can just go to the OGS website and you can order it right from there. You will have to pay shipping there, but these are available if you do want them. So thank you very kindly for your time. I hope you get to walk away knowing a little bit more about your cousins to the north. And great, thank you.